Welcome to the 4th and 4 podcast, sponsored by Inside the Leather Custom Putter Covers. Search Inside the Leather Shop on Etsy. Use promo code podcast at checkout to save 20% on your purchase. I'm Donald Lawrence. Our guest today is Big Guy Ament, defensive line coach at San Antonio O'Connor. Already has us laughing today. Welcome to the podcast, Coach.
Hi, Coach. Thanks for having me on. Thank you.
Well, oh man, my pleasure. It's a new segment we're starting with, and it's called Starting Hot. You ready to start hot?
Starting hot, coming in hot.
All right. You're a big dude. You played tight end and defensive tackle in college, but in high school, you were a quarterback. If you had Aaron Donald as your high school quarterback, what kind of offense would you run?
I think everybody would agree with me that they're going to run some kind of option, and I would run the double wing and run midline, and then the veer, and then the power toss where the quarterback is getting in it to win it. And I would love to see Aaron Donald ISOing on a free safety. That would be amazing. And then just speed option and load option. I think that would be amazing, seeing him in bootlegging out and not even throwing the ball. Just have the guy in the flat block.
That's what I was going to ask you. Would you even want him to pitch it?
No, just to mix it up, because you're gonna have 20 people coming to him. Like all 11 people are gonna be going to the mesh, just every now and then. Just every now and then. That would be amazing. That'd be like Garrett Lorenzen that could run.
You grew up in a small town, man. Bunker Hill, one stoplight, and just based on your stories, a whole bunch of characters in that small town. What was it like growing up and playing sports in Bunker Hill?
Well, actually, there was no stoplights. There was one stoplight in the county at the time. No, three. I'll take it back. 3 stoplights in the entire county. And it's the 10th largest county in Illinois, behind like Cook County, which is Chicago, and then it's just basically all farm fields. But one big 4-way stop middle of town. Growing up in a small town, the one thing that I if you look back at it, and I think all coaches can appreciate this, is that if you did anything, like everybody found out about it. Like everybody, like your mom, your uncle, your grandpa, your grandma, your coaches knew. They would just give you say, Halloween, you smash pumpkins. Like you got to look like that disappointing look walking into high school, because like your teachers knew. Like, and then like my favorite story was I'm pumping gas. And basketball is big in my hometown. Like football just started. It just started. Like everything was basketball. It was like Hoosiers. That everything is about that. People are coming up asking like, how's you shooting? And I was pumping gas one season, and I don't even see who's pulled up. I'm just pumping gas, and somebody goes, "Hey, Ament, you're shooting 71% from the free throw line. You need to get that up." And then before I could say anything, he goes, "Tell your Grandpa John I said hi," and just drives off. Doesn't say nothing. So I'm like, man, I must be a crappy free throw shooter.
I've seen film on you from high school, and you look like the old Jack in the Box commercial where the dude's got the big helmet. You're out there bigger than everybody else.
The cornfields.
What's it like being the quarterback and you're twice the size of your center?
It's kind of funny because, I look every now and then at the teams we're coaching, and I look at like some of our backup DBs, and I'm like, you played left tackle for me. And that's the reason why I took some hits. But it was honestly, it was a miracle we had football, to be honest, there, because and it's one of the things that we're kind of lucky, that everybody's lucky in Texas to have with administration and everything, because my football coach would drive 30 minutes into town. There was like when Doug Martin was there, he found a way to get himself in the building, but being a sub, so he'd be like the full-time sub. But besides that, none of the coaches from the building. There was only the JV basketball coach, the only coach in the building, and there was no athletic period. You had to work out on your own. It was a miracle that we did stuff, that we had games and everything. No trainers. That's another crazy thing. No trainers. So if you got injured, you either toughed it out or you sat out. There was no, you got a bag of ice. You put the only treatment we had was an ice bucket, and you just put your leg in the ice bucket. That was it. That was it. It was, and you had to go to the doctor. It's pretty crazy if you think about it nowadays, how they have it. Now at the games, they would have trainers and doctors, but at practices, nothing. Like just, it crazy stuff. If you think about how those small schools do it, but even small schools in Texas have a trainer. Like you got a trainer, but I don't know. But we're kind of the lucky ones in that fact.
Right. Don't get injured.
Yes. Oh yeah. And then guess who's taping your ankle? Your
Probably
coach.
the coach. Yeah.
Yes. And you're just like, you see the strips of tape, and it got to the point where you'd see him do it so many times that you're like, you put more on his ankle. And if he was a star player, you're like, oh, just because he's better than me? You'd kind of think that way after a while.
I got you. Your first coaching job. So let's go. Your first coaching job is at Texas Lutheran University, but we got to figure out, and you got to tell us, how did you go from Bunker Hill, Illinois? And I know you mentioned Coach Martin, but I got insider information on this. Tell everybody else, how do you go from Bunker Hill, Illinois, with 3 stoplights to a Division III school in the state of Texas?
Well, I was told like in middle school and high school that I was going to college, or there was a stack of hundreds. That's like there was going to be somebody to beat me up if I didn't go to college. So there was that motivation, and I knew what biker gang was going to do it. Like I was told, like it's going to be this one, or this one. They're not going to kill you. They're just going to know you're going to go to college. And so
who set that deal in motion?
Oh, my dad.
Yeah,
that was just a big, and he'd show me the money every now and then. He's like, we need to talk about this, and just point. I'm like, no, we're good.
Over to Sons of Anarchy. Meanwhile, Sons of Anarchy are sitting here. All right. Ament shooting 71% from the free throw line. He ain't going to make it.
And
get your bats ready, boys.
And some of the spots he would say were like, you knew, like, don't hang around them. But if I did something bad, it was like there's that. But so I had to go to college, and I just didn't want to go to school. Like if I didn't go to school, I'd be cutting scrap metal right now in my cousin's junkyard. Nothing wrong with it. I'd be making good money. Wouldn't have the student loan debt, but I definitely wouldn't have some experiences and everything I would have. But so I went to school, and then I wanted to play ball and coach. So if I'm going to go, I might as well play ball. And then Coach Martin, who coached me for 1 year, and he's originally from Kingwood, and he ended up at Illinois College and then came back down. He was working at Texas State to get his master's in math, and then he got on at TLU to get a deal with like he got like the free education cert. He did his student teaching for nothing, so he didn't have to become alt cert. And he brought me up a catalog, and then TLU, believe it or not, was cheaper than every school in the Midwest. And I liked it. I mean, I like seeing the palm tree, which, I mean, if you go to TLU, you realize, I mean, it's nicer now. Like it's nicer now, and it's the location amazing. But like I was blown away by the one palm tree between 2 dorms that were probably the worst dorms on campus. And that's what man. And then just the whole, and then you start seeing you saw all the Coach Miller's pictures in the office, all those NFL guys like, Troy Brown, some of those TCU guys that he coached back in the day up there. And then you see the cat. It's kind of like, this is before Friday Night Lights. So, with the whole Texas high school, you got to experience that culture. And
it was before the movie, not the book.
Before the movie. And I didn't even know about the book. Like, it didn't, like, if it was anything, it was like the book on Hoosiers was a big thing back home there because there was one book about like a school in Illinois that did it. That was a book out.
I thought for sure it'd be the Tyson chicken plant. You thought you'd get unlimited chicken tenders.
The funny thing is that is like you go back and you smell it now, and you just become. It's like back home. There's a big dairy farm, and you don't smell it until you go back. And you're like, holy cow, it's bad. And then you just don't get used to it. And then it's funny also that. Like Caterpillar is right next to the school too, and that used to be up in Peoria, and that was that's a big strike and everything. It comes down here. It's funny that Illinois traveled down with me. I like to think I wish Caterpillar would give me a little bit of founder's fee for finding that land across from I-10 for them.
So before you went to TLU, you had already known you were going to be a coach. So when you were done playing, that was just the quickest
I
and
knew I was going to be
easiest
a
transition was to coach at TLU.
Yes, because Doug told me, like, you need to coach. You just need to coach because it's going to be easier for you to get a job. And then he'd also tell me, like, now, I'm telling you, like, if you play D3, the old rule, and you see it, it's been broken now, but the old rule was, because the guy from the Eagles, that if you coach in D3, your probably highest level is going to be in D3. But Texas high school is amazing. And so I went in that, and then, my GPA wasn't the best. And that education program there, they kind of put it up on a pedestal along with some of the sciences and everything there. But when I went alt cert, and but I knew from being in a class, you saw, because my old track, they didn't have it roped off. Like you could just drive. There's two ways to get there. Like you could just go and get on the field, like if you wanted to. They didn't have it roped off. You can go to the parking lot and just drive on it. And we had an old cinder track, and it was muddy. And a student was doing just like, I guess, like dirt track racing around and got stuck at like turn number 2. And I'm in class and you could see it and everybody's talking. All of a sudden you see him like cuffed walking by the little window and the door. And you're like, and he was a better athlete than me. And I was like, you know what? If somebody could have got to him, he could have helped him out. And that's kind of what made me do it. And I love sports too. It wasn't like I couldn't, like, once again, if I'm gonna have to go to college, I want to do something I like instead of I didn't want to sit in an office. I wasn't good at math. I wish I would have, been pushed to be an accountant or something and make a lot more money. But that
I could not see you in a tiny accountant cubicle.
No, it would be
I can imagine you sweating already. So Coach Good, offense coordinator at TLU, currently the offense coordinator at Redlands University.
Oh, he's the head coach now.
Oh, he's the head coach. Okay.
He's the head ball coach there.
I didn't know that. Good for him.
Oh, yeah.
He gets the opportunity to go be a head coach at Hamlin University in Minnesota, and he takes you with him. What was that transition like, going from the South to the North? Temperature change, kid change, clientele change?
There's a lot of stories, but whenever I got it, I was pumped. And like turning in my keys was a pain in the butt at TLU because like everybody resigned, all Coach Miller's staff resigned, and then I think like Coach Shade was the week before me, but I had all Coach Shade's keys because I did all the laundry, and then so I had to turn in all his keys. So they were under him, but they were my keys. It was a pain in the butt. And I remember turning my resignation letter, and they're like, another one. But I was making money. I was only getting like $1,000, and Coach Miller had it set up to where I was making more than Division I GAs there because I was making $1,200 a year, $1,200 a month at TLU, and then I got $3,200, $3,000 or $3,300, $33,000 at Hamlin, which to me that was a lot, and that's about how much. That was about as what teachers made back home. I didn't know, and then moving up there, I drove up, and then I lived there for like a month and a half to 2 months before I got a paycheck because my mom's like, you're done. You got a job. We're done with you. But I moved into, and I didn't know this until months later, but I moved into the coach's locker room. And I slept on an air mattress for a month and a half. I thought it was, and this is like whenever you're young, you're like, this is awesome. I got a TV. I had one of those like Pepsi fridges with the clear window. I was pumped about. They had like a 12-pack of soda in there. I'm like, yes.
And a custodian?
Yeah. It was like
to clean up after you?
Yes. They came by, they came by in the daytime, at least didn't wake me up early. And then I could roll out of bed into the showers. I thought that was cool because I would just roll into the shower and hit the shower on. But then to come to find out, like 2 months later or a year later, I had a room in the dorms, but like I was 22 and they were co-ed dorms, and it was, and you can look up Hamlin. They made the news recently for like a lawsuit, and then supposedly one of those big like student shooter guys that like breaks down why they did it.
Right.
He's from Hamlin, like because there's some like law department there. But it's interesting whenever I hear a professor from there because I work there, but I was supposed to be in that dorm. And they told me like we weren't going to put you in that dorm. That was, and then doing a recruiting tour one time, we had to go through one of the dorms, and it's like two players from the volleyball team, like just in towels. They come up and introduce themselves. I'm like, and the recruiter's like, "Hey, how's it going? Who are you?" and I'm just like, "Oh no, this is bad." But that's why I lived in the locker room for 2 months. And then there was a guy with like one of those Russian hats that would always let me in, and we'd talk about the purple people eaters from the Minnesota Vikings all the time.
Give me a couple Hamlin stories. Give me a couple coaching Hamlin stories. Involve Coach Good if you need to.
Hamlin stories. So
I remember one with a pushy pizza guy.
So welcome to Division III football. We're playing Gustavus Adolphus, which is I think in St. Peter, Minnesota. It's like DF'd up like St. Paul, Minnesota here, and if you live in Minnesota, like it's down here. And it's a beautiful campus. They got a bowl, and I'm up in the press box, and we're getting beat. I mean, they're good. They're pretty solid, and it's the last series, and you see like there's a skirmish. You can see it from the press box. Like you can see people chit-chatting, and then all of a sudden the phones, like the defensive coordinator goes, you guys need to get down here. This pizza guy is like demanding and screaming and wanting to fight, like to get paid. And you can see the pizza boxes are stacked up behind him. Because you've seen it. Those guys, they know, put it by the bus. Put it by the bus. I mean, or you park there and then you hand it. But it must have been this guy's first day of the job. And like Jim is trying to call the offense and argue with the guy and has to walk over from like the 40 to the 25 to sign the receipt for this guy. And he looked like, he kind of looked like a Chris Farley character, a little skinnier, but like the muffin top hair hanging out of the hat, and just had his little, he had the pizza box in one hand and like pointing his finger in the other with his, company jacket, Domino's jacket on.
So Coach Good, his first head coaching job, he's calling the offense, and in the middle of the game, he's got to stop to go pay the pizza guy.
Yeah, it was like, and it was like on third down too. It was something. It was something crazy, and there's been a lot of those there. One time I didn't get in this one. This is another one. So one time I show up to work, and like where my old apartment was the stadium. Well, there's cops all around it, and I parked kind of legal. I'd kind of park right by it just because it's easy to get out. And all these cops there are like, what happened? Like somebody stole an ATM out of the stadium. And you could see where they put it on a dolly and wheeled it across the field and like went through like the fence at the end of the track and like threw it over a fence. And you can see where it slid down into an overpass below. And I wasn't a film guy there, but they like had they had to get a testimony from our video guy about like why were the cameras moved. And it was funny, but it was like they'd come up to the office like, are you the camera guy? I'm like, no, I'm not the camera guy. And then what else you want? What's another story that you want? Funny recruiting story is so there's this town, it was called Piers, and they just played in state championship, and I'm recruiting them, and in Texas, you know how it is. A coach comes in, brings the players in, you talk to them. Well, this kid shows up, and I'm in Minnesota. You don't get to meet the coaches because they're teaching, they're doing stuff. Well, he had him come at this time, and this kid just starts yelling at me, like saying, "I'm not going to school there. I'm going to play here. I'm going there." And I'm just sitting there like, "Oh, what is going on?" It's the last one of the day. Get ready to drive, 2 hours back to St. Paul, and it was the weirdest thing ever. I couldn't imagine it. If that would have happened in Texas, like the kid is he's in PE, like he's out. But that was my biggest shocker, like just getting yelled at. And then whenever you'd go up to the hockey towns, like up in Rosso's, where I think where Polaris is like their headquarters, and it's a hockey. There's like, I think they have like a Hall of Fame there of all like the former NHL guys there. But and those kids come in, and I just ask like, who's hockey? And one kid is like, they all raise their hand but one, and it's like the kind of like the backup fullback looking kid. It doesn't raise
the runt of the litter.
Yes, but everybody, these kids are short. But one of them, I'm like, so where are you going? One guy's like, I'm going to North Dakota. I'm going to St. Cloud. I'm going to University of Minnesota. I'm going like that'd be saying like I'm going to Texas. I'm going to A&M. I'm going to Alabama in hockey.
Right.
You know, I go, and this is what got me. Like they're good kids because I just got yelled at the week before by some kid from a 2A school, and I'm at a same size school, and these kids are like, Coach, we just want to stay out of class. We know the spiel. We're good. Give us your stuff. They go, give us a pamphlet so we can actually get excused. I'm like, you guys know the deal. Like, yeah, we know.
They play in the system.
We know the routine.
So from there, you go to Howard Payne. That brought you back to Texas.
Yes. So I've been lucky, and there's they made a change that was tough, and I got to work with some good dudes up there. So one of the ads who he actually moved out of Texas again, kind of helped me out and let me get out of my contract like really really quickly, and everything. And I got lucky because everybody goes to coaching like the AFCA is like a big coaching school. It's like a national Texas high school coaching school, and everybody goes there to try to find a job, and nobody really gets one unless you know people. And I looked up, and Howard Payne had a job opening, and I just looked up every picture on their website, and it's at the Houston. It's at the. Have you ever been to the Dallas Anatole, the Hilton?
No.
It's like off the Stemmen, and it's off like one of the freeways. It's out of downtown Dallas, but it's like north of the American Airlines Center. But it's its own like complex there. It's near nothing. Like if you want to go to eat, you got to drive 5-10 miles and deal with Dallas traffic. And I'm going out to go to the hotel because I had to get a hotel on my own. No. I'm staying on the couch in Jim's hotel because Jim got one for free. And I'm leaving, and I see the DC at Howard Payne there, and I just start talking to him. And then, he said they hired somebody, and then next thing you know, it's signing day, which, for D3 basically, you find out who you can recruit, like who is. Because kids would blow you off, and then all of a sudden, like, oh, now I don't have that offer, and then you just show them love, and they want to come visit because they just got their heart broken. It's like the homecoming queen told them no after telling them I'm going to go with you, and then but anyway, like that day, and I'm the only one in the office at Howard at Hamlin at the time, and the phone rings like, hey, you want to come for an interview? I'm like, yes, and I get in my car. And I drive 35 all the way down, exit 20, Cisco, on down to Brownwood, and got hired, came back up, picked my stuff up. I actually had to buy a cell phone there because I knew I was going to have to turn my cell phone on the way back up.
What made you finally get into high school? And then what's the biggest difference between coaching college and coaching at the high school level?
Well, that's funny because everybody – you think in high school you don't have as much time, and here's why: because you play on Friday and you got meetings at 7:30 or whenever. I mean, some people you got to watch the film. You have kids coming in. Well, in college, you got a game. Depending on where your game may be, like if you're playing Mississippi College or something, then you're coming in at 1 a.m. And then you have Sunday off, and then so you have time to, or you bring them in the afternoon. But you can't bring them too early because of church and religious things. Because you work at a religious school, you got to give them time to go to church services. So you have that little bit of break, and then you have all Sunday to work on everything. You're not dealing with any class stuff, and then Monday you have all day because that's normally their time off. And I've seen teams do it where Sunday's their day off and Monday is their day, but same thing. You have 2 full days to really prep, and that's. You're not dealing with grades. You're not dealing with, any other, any kind of student issue, anything. You're just focusing on football and your other tasks, like whether it be video, you're checking on the dorms, you're checking on the food, you're checking on travel, and you're breaking down. You're getting there 3 or 4 games. You're getting everything up. You're drawing scout cards, and then you can really get into. Like stuff you get in later in the week, like third downs. What are their top third down defenses or top third down plays and a left hash? You can do that all on Monday and Tuesday, and that's the biggest difference. Is that even throughout the week, you have 8 hours before the kids come to see you, so you can get a little bit more specific, and that's why some of those big and especially whenever you get the big schools, they can. I mean, they got 5, 2 guys every spot. They can break it down more, but that's the biggest thing. and put it this way, yeah, that you're doing football stuff, but in high school, you are constantly running. Okay, you just got off the bus. You're getting up. And then Sunday, guess what? What is it, 10, 11, noon? Depends on what staff you're on. Some people work at home. But you're doing the same thing Sunday. But then also on Sunday, you got to prep Monday, Tuesday in the classroom. Even if you don't have a class, say you're doing credit recovery, you got to know. You can't just walk in there and just say, like, you just can't roll the dice or shoot from the hip. I mean, you got to have a plan. And that's the hardest part. Because in high school, you are constantly running. Like I used to pad games in college. Like you can't. Like you can, but then like you have the date already in there, and you're like, yeah, I can spend 2 more hours doing this, or I can actually spend 2 more hours doing it. Your time is you don't have as much.
So it's definitely time management and figuring out ways to be more efficient.
Yes. Oh, yes. And plus, you're just dealing with your dudes in college. You're not dealing with Johnny, little Sally, Eric, Steve, Rick. I mean, you're dealing with just your 10 or 15 dudes in your position. And then if you're on defense, you're dealing with those 50. If you're on offense, you're dealing with those 50. That's it. That's what makes it nice. But then again, like if anybody's taught, you help that one kid out. It's not bad. You're like,
right.
It's not bad. I helped that kid out. And they make
having those kids come in from the different backgrounds too is just keeps you on your toes, man. You got to be on point for classroom management and building those relationships and getting to know the kids that are involved in extracurricular activities and other areas, fine arts, and those things. So, I enjoy that part of it. But you're right; it all comes down to making sure you're prepared and having a plan, because that's where any kind of classroom management or practice organization, everything comes down to the structure and organization.
Oh, yeah.
The routine.
The first practice on a Tuesday or Monday in high school is more frantic than in college, because you're always feeling like, even in college where you kind of felt unprepared, but you had, at least it wasn't as like you're doing football stuff all the way up to then. You weren't dealing with like 30 kids that you're not going to be coaching. That was the thing.
Right.
You're not dealing with athletes, but that's it. It is rewarding. Like you get to see the band, the people in the band, the dance. Like there's a student who's like a swimmer going to Arizona State, and it's awesome because she's probably gonna be swimming in the Olympics. And I can say, like, I taught her. She's a good student. It's awesome.
Right. What's something now that you wish you knew sooner?
Something I knew now. I wish I would have known about like the investing stuff when I was younger. Just in my putting $100 aside. $100. You don't need to go out to eat all the time. Just put that and set that up. I mean, I did. The one thing that's nice is in college, I'll get my Social Security for retirement, but it's a little bit. I'm still not going to get max, but I have that other retirement, which is going to help me. But I wish I would have saved a lot more in my 20s than I did, because that was whenever, and you probably remember this. That was before the Great Recession. Whenever companies would give you, they would just give you 10% matching. Like you didn't have to put nothing in it. They just gave you 10%. It wasn't until like 2008 where they made you match 5 and 5. So I wish I would have put 5 in. I would have 10, 15 more thousand just by that little bit of compounding interest.
The power of compound interest.
Yeah.
Ben Franklin said the power of compound interest is the most powerful force in the universe. I teach it to my health kids and I teach it to my athletes. So I have a little 2 or 3 minute character lesson that I do every day. It's called Daily Warpath, and it's just one slide. And one of the first slides is the power of compound interest and investing early. Mm-hmm. And you got to know the game you want to play, right? So when I decided that I wanted to play this game of being a high school coach, I know there's a limit on my income. All right. I know what the high score, let's say your income, the amount of money you make is your high score. I knew there was going to be a limit. So how do I maximize my earnings for a future date, for a retirement date? And it's investing, right? You don't get rich from a salary. You get rich from owning capital. So owning your mutual funds, owning them early, letting that compound interest build up every year. And the example I always give is Walt Disney. Walt Disney made a substantial fortune, right, on just Mickey, but the company became extremely wealthy because they own Marvels. They own the theme parks. So you have to own capital, and the earlier you start doing it, the better. And that compound interest makes a huge difference. And just starting at 20 and putting a couple, like you said, $100 a month adds up. And by the time you're 65, 68, you're a multimillionaire.
Yeah, I don't know what that lady is. It's one of those investor ladies talks about that. You put $100 in whenever you're 20, you're going to. But if you spend 2 years not doing it, it's like if you wait till you're 26 or 30, it becomes 400,000.
Yeah,
just because you missed out on that compounding interest.
Right. If you start at 20 and you invest until you're 30, say 2,000 a year, and someone starts at 30 and they do 2,000 until they're 65, the person who just did it for that 10 years will have about $500,000 more on average, on market return average since 1940s.
It's crazy.
So, that's a really good one. I'm glad you kind of went off the coaching path there, because I think that's valuable for anybody. And if there's any young coaches out there listening, I can't stress that enough.
Yeah, I think that's the
and
thing.
It's never been easier with E-Trade, to get a Roth IRA and to have a separate E-Trade account as well as your TRS. That's gravy on top of taters, Coach.
And then the thing I don't know, and this is what boggles me, is the EFTs. Like, you can buy money in the mutual fund. You put money in like a Vanguard account, but then you can buy stock in that same mutual fund, which seems like double dipping, but like those are even better, because then you still get the dividend payments on it.
Right.
You don't get that interest of the account, but you get the interest. You get the stock going up, and then you get your dividend payments, and you're not putting in, you don't have to enter in $5,000 to start. You can just buy one share and then double it up.
That's right. Know the game you're playing. Our salary, even if you have the best head coaching job in the state of Texas, is not going to be comparable to what you could make in private business as an attorney, as a doctor, as a construction project manager. So know the game you're playing and start early and finish where you want to finish through that investment. That's a great tip, man. What has been the most difficult decision in your coaching career?
My most difficult one was probably getting into high school, and it wasn't just that. I just kind of was unhappy. And, I wanted to try to chase that dream to be like the college coach and get up to the scholarship level. But, that was tough, because then you just you got a little bit of failure in there. But then the hardest decision was passing the content area test. That's tough, especially when you haven't been doing, social studies for a while. That was tough. And then, that was tough. Just getting that transition going from, college to high school, it is difficult, because, and then whenever you visited people, they always ask what's it like in high school, and then in college, and you hear the kind of the stories from the high school coaches and recruiting, and you kind of just dealing with athletes. But I've enjoyed it. I wish I would have done it sooner, because like I said, my TRS would be up, but that was difficult.
Was it difficult because the pride takes a little hit? You feel like you're taking a step down at the time?
Yes.
You invested time and it didn't work out, and now you got to regroup?
Yes, it was just that failure. Knowing man, I didn't make it. I didn't make it. And there's several things I could, and I turned down jobs, but I wanted to make, I just want to make a steady income. I could have taken a job to make 20, but I didn't want to live on $20,000 to try to, but the thing about the high school game that I enjoy is not every year. Every year you got to worry about being fired and coaching anymore, but you have stability. In college, you get let go. There's only so many college jobs, and if you look at those college boards, people take them for nothing. I mean, those Division I guys that get let go, they take a $15K job. Now they're getting paid still from their contracts, but they take those less jobs at other places in analysis for a year to bounce back. And if you're not high up, you don't have those choices. So I'm glad I'm in the high school game now, but it was tough because it won the pride, because you knew you're man, I'm going down a level. It's almost like going from high school to junior high. that would be kind of considerate of that, because you take that, because you're going from this level down a level. But honestly, Division III to Texas high school is not a down. It's more of an up, because you got better.
Yeah, that's what I was going to hit on. I mean, here's the ups. Your salary improved.
Mm-hmm.
The amount of people at your games went up.
Mm-hmm.
The amount of kids that you have a chance to impact increases. So I definitely wouldn't consider it a failure. I know that the pride issue probably came into play, but if you take all the lessons and relationships you made along the way before you made that decision, ultimately you, just like we were just talking about with the investment, you change games, right?
Mm-hmm.
I can sit in this game and what's going to be my high score as a D3 position coach compared to what could be my high score in Texas high school football. And to me, I think you made the smart decision.
Yeah, and it was difficult after every year. If you didn't know where you're going to live, and honestly, it saved me from buying a house, because I didn't know where I was going to be every year. And if I would have bought a house when I was just got in, like, as everybody knows who owns a house, you own a home. I mean, you just build equity. It's another way of investing, because whenever you sell it, you're going to make money.
It's the ultimate, like, besides the mutual funds, it's the ultimate way. Like, who's going back to the game? Who scores when you pay rent?
Yeah,
you're playing somebody that doesn't even live there,
mm-hmm.
right? And I've been fortunate. I've just gotten lucky. I'm on house number 4 that I've purchased, and I've just gotten lucky that nothing increases like property in the right spot and property you take care of. And we've just been very fortunate on all 4 to continue to upgrade and build equity rather quickly, because 4 houses at my age is a lot for most people.
I waited until
we've just been lucky.
I was waiting until I was 36, 37 by my first one.
Right.
But yeah, and I'm selling this one now too, so it's crazy. I mean, the market is still crazy about that. But yeah, those are the things there too. Sorry.
So, what piece of advice would you give a first-year football coach?
Just listen to I don't want to say older coaches, because then people because I consider myself an older coach now, but just listen to the most experienced veteran coach on staff. And those guys, like, most of the time they are going to, and every time they're going to tell you how to do things. Like, they're going to tell you what to do. They're going to give you the Contra cheat code: up, down, start, left, right, left for infinite. They're going to help you get through that path more than any class, they're going to give you the ins and outs of it. And plus, they're going to help you deal with kids. They're going to help you deal with parents. You're not going to have the problems if you kind of follow them and how they do things. It goes from indie to the box stuff, game day stuff. I mean, now some of those guys are some of them are become more your practical jokers. Depends on where they're at in their career, but they will help you get through those 1 or 2 years. And the one thing I wish I would have done is just take a notebook and or a recorder and just recorded all the stuff they said and just remembered it. But that's the biggest thing, because whenever you're younger, and I didn't fall into it, I don't think is bad, but you kind of get stuck in it, like, everything whenever you're your first year, and you don't. And I wish I would have took like notes on everything the experienced coaches in the room said.
Right. And I think it's not just the experienced coach, but it's like, who's the coach that you gravitate to that you would want to be like? Because there's plenty of experienced coaches that maybe are checked out. They're stuck in ways, right? And I still think there's things you can learn from them, but really kind of pay attention to who's working the room with the kids, whose work ethic do you admire, whose presence do you admire when they're speaking to adults or to kids, who is presenting ideas that you can tell they've really kind of thought out, and it's not just something that came to their head, but they also thought about the logistics and all the moving pieces within that idea on how we're going to do something. I definitely think in any profession, right, just who's the best, and then trying to pick the brain of the best. You mentioned the tape recorder and writing things down. Here, I'll pull out mine right now. 1 second. So this is something I started doing.
You have to edit that.
Yeah, I started doing this a few years ago, man, and it's every off season. Just keeping a notebook and anything and everything that I can think of. If I find something from this podcast that I've learned, I'll date it and I'll write it down. I
And
think
I
that's a
like
great
those
piece of
books.
advice.
I like those books a lot better because I used to keep the legal pads, and those legal pads are hard, a pain in the butt to go through. But like
Right.
at least if you get that book and you buy those cheap little tabs, like you can make them a file folder and just put that in there. And like I said, once you put that year on there, you just grab it and you can kind of flip through and figure out where you want to find. And that's the best way to do it rather than doing a legal pad. And nowadays you get people to do the Google Notes and everything. But once you do that though, I think if you put stuff to Google, put it in your Google Drive. If you scan stuff and I think that's amazing too. Because then you can put
Right.
it in Google
Yeah, I
Drive
do a combination
afterwards.
of both.
But I started doing that with some of my old stuff recently because I had to clean out the closet. That closet behind me was like stacked with old stuff that I don't know why I kept, but kept it.
So we're going a little bit more in depth on where you're at right now, your responsibilities, and what you ultimately want out of coaching, and what are the steps you're taking now to get there?
I'm I'm coaching defensive line at O'Connor High School, which is it's in Northside, kind of like Cypress, one of the bigger school districts in the state. At one of the 6A schools there, and I'm just starting defensive line. I'm a track coach. I help with the game plan. I help draw cards, just like every coach. I teach, but that I'm not one of those guys that wants to be. I don't want to be a head coach, and like that's not my thing. I don't want to deal with that. The student part of it, the parent part of it, as much. Next couple of years, maybe a coordinator. Once again, I'm still a front guy. I don't. Whenever you start talking the back end, I can get a little lost in that, but I know enough to be dangerous in the chalkboard. But um, I kind of like where I'm at for 1 or 2 years now. In the end game, my dream job would be big D1 job, NFL job, 5-year deal, get fired in 3 and have 2 years of vacation. Then you can just sit and criticize everybody for 2 years and still have them pay you. That would be the end job. And what I'm doing to that is, and whenever you go to the AFCA and everything, whenever like Grant Taft did it and those guys, and then he bring those guys in, and it was kind of funny because they would tell you what's going on. They'd always say, just be good at the job you're at, and everything will take care of itself. Because then word gets around, and then you see the people, that really kind of politic for stuff. And I just try to get good at what I'm at, so for people I work with, and whatever shows up on film is good, and that's about it. Because I played the politicking game. I leave that up to my cousin who's in politics. I leave that up to my relatives who are in politics. I'm not very good at it, but that's kind of what it is. In game, maybe because nowadays like what happened in Nebraska, these guys get called up just because they're good at what they do, and then 2, they're around some good athletes, and that's probably the path to go there. But I'm in no hurry to go to that path. I hate saying this. They say whenever you get satisfied, pigs get fat, they get slaughtered. But I work for a good guy. I enjoy the office. It's funny. Like I don't like. I can stay in the office. Like it's almost like I'm there, and then I leave when the last guy leaves, and I just want to leave early so I don't have to turn the alarm on. That's how it is. It's not work. So, and I get in trouble at home. Girlfriend's mad because I'm at the office too long, but I enjoy it. It's just that's kind of where I'm at.
That's good, man.
Sorry to ramble.
There's nothing better than being happier in your day to day. Your purpose has always got to be bigger than your problems.
Oh, and I think the major thing too is whenever you get to a place, and this, whenever admin is good, and they kind of understand that, hey, you're putting in 20 hours, 15 hours on the weekends, more than anybody other teachers, and kind of understand that, like understand what you're doing and things like that, and they're not like in your classroom every day or something like that. I've been in places where they are. That's great. It's their job, but like whenever they kind of understand the time out of class you're doing it, when you get to a place like that, when they respect you, that's the ultimate thing. They respect what you're doing, and they know you're still doing your job, And whenever you're at those places, I think that's like what, just like everywhere else. Whenever management's good, you don't see people leaving a lot.
All right, big fella. We're going to the 4th and 4 scenario. You ready?
Yes.
All right. You said you're a front guy, so let's see how you'll navigate this. I'm a 20 personnel split back gun team. I got 2 backs, and my quarterback are all run threats. I'm a run first team. My top 2 plays are zone read option, power read.
Okay.
My passing game is mainly quick game and go routes with some play action. I'm in split back formation in the middle of the field. Twins to my left and your right. My single receiver is flexed at 5 yards and usually cracks from this position if the perimeter run game is to him. What are we doing? How you stopping it? Get off the field. You're up 5. You got 2 minutes left. Offense has no timeouts.
Okay, I'm up.
You're up 5.
I'm up 5. Okay, so I just got to keep you out of the field goal range. And you're going for it.
You got to stop. You got to stop.
I got to get a stop. 4th and 5, 50. On the left hash. My left,
middle
your
of the
right.
field.
The middle of the field. There's several things here. One, I hate power. I love power, but then I hate power because if you don't have the interior guy, it's Katie bar the door in the A gap, and then everything's bad. But you're probably an RPO team dealing with the quick game. So I would probably there's two things I would do. I would play a base like Tampa coverage where we're all inside, take away the slants, the glance, things like that, try to spill everything outside. So even if you are fast, we can probably push you out of bounds for a 3-yard gain. And we don't want anything going downhill. And the other thing would be to run basically like a switch NCAA where the outside guy is going underneath and the guy that instead of them going like this, they go like this.
Right.
That would be it. But I would want to man up everybody and play man free behind it simply because I don't want to leave that glance. If you RPO with number 2 and something, and just to have somebody help out if you do hit it on that single side or get inside with that. And
what front or what's your base? What's
I would
base
probably
here?
base out of a 3-man front, but then reduce down into a 4. And if I'm playing Tampa, I want to play an inside twist game to try to get let me just draw it up.
All right, so you're going to reduce down.
Yes.
Which means you're going to take that outside backer, your anchor backer, probably to the single and bring him off the edge. Yes. Play that D end in a 4-eye.
Yes, let me just draw it up here. I'm going to draw a crappy thing of it, but
draw it up. Let's see what you
got.
So
it look like that.
Okay, we're at Glazier Clinic doing some chalk wars.
Yeah, so
I like it.
So that, and then I'd want to run like a little twist.
You got 10 guys on there, right? I'm just kidding.
No, you're right. I do. I didn't have the will. I didn't have the will, but yeah. So I would want to do something like that, a little twist game, like a little twist read game. But I'd like to be inside leverage on everything, just in case of the RPO and everything outside, just in case you run power read and zone read. I got a guy there, or I would run the typical. I'd be in the 3-4, running your NCAA blitz, and I would play man free. Sorry.
No, this is good. Trahan actually suggested that for defensive guys, I put a dry erase board. And I was like, I think I can actually just send defensive guys the scenario and how I'm lined up in, and they can probably explain it. And so far, we've been pretty successful until we got to you.
Yeah, I'm a little difficult. Okay, there you go.
All right, what we got?
Or do that. Or just do like a little switch into the blitz and man free it. And probably I imagine you can probably throw to your backs, probably make that guy a peel guy. But those are the 2 things I would do just to try to get out. One, be sitting in base and hope we can get pressure because I don't know. I've brought pressure on those situations, and then next thing you know, you're just hearing the band play because you're one missed tackle away. At least if you play base, you miss a tackle, you got 1st and 10 again, and that you're still the same. But just in case you're like, really killing with the RPO and stuff. You're putting pressure, making the quarterback make a faster decision.
I'll tell you what, you are very good at just drawing freehanding. Mine looks terrible. So
there's been a lot of constructive criticism over the years by drawing circles bad. Yeah, a lot of poking in the chest and markers.
Life of the D3, man.
Mm-hmm. Oh man! So what would you do? What play would you run? What would you?
As I told Coach Yannick this is my podcast. I ask the questions. I'm absorbing information from everybody that I ask. Kind of the genius of the show, and I don't have to give away anything I would do. So,
no, but what would you run though in those situations? I'll say you win.
That's what I'm saying. I don't have to give up that information. That's not. I'm not. That's not for me to answer.
Yeah, and
I just get to listen to everybody.
The thing I hate about this is me. I think I talked to Wheeler about this one time. It was like if teams pin and pull and run RPO, I hate that because one, it goes against everything. Like zone, you can slow play the backside of zone a little bit, but if you get pin and pull, like you got to move,
right? Unless you're creating additional gaps.
Yeah, and it just creates that window on the backside, and it's just dirty. I hate it. I wish they would. I wish they'd let us do a little bit more stuff on defense, but it's.
Oh, really? All 11 of you guys can move before the snap. What else do you want to do?
Not now. They put a little bit of that, some of the stuff up front, but I'm just talking like more, like hands-on more and stuff like that. Because almost every time they call pass interference, it's kind of.
If you tackle those receivers before the ball's thrown.
Oh yeah, that too, and then or just call holding. I know what happens every time. Just call it the point of attack. I don't need the backside play. Just call it the point of attack when somebody's bear hugged and thrown to the ground. Like, just call it. That's a defensive guy in me. But I wish. It's just so difficult with RPO stuff.
Almost shed a tear for you guys over there on defense sometimes.
It just is like you can't. I think that's why a lot of teams are going to this Tampa stuff now because it takes out that read on the run fit for your conflict player in the RPO, and then it kind of aligns you for success a little bit with this 3 high stuff, and then you're still okay in the coverage. You're not perfect with cover 3, but you're at least with the Tampa stuff in it, you're you're not giving away the easiest throw with that guy in the middle, but.
I'm with you. That's almost identical to how we ended last week's podcast, talking about the Tampa and the 3 safety defense. So, that's the trend now, thanks to Iowa State and Baylor and Vandegrift. So it's coming down the pipe. All right, man. Awesome stuff. Tell the listeners how to find you on social media.
Oh, let me look that up because I don't know how many people follow me on Twitter that much. I'm at Coach Guy Ament. No, it's all one word. And I still have like a picture from my Howard Payne days on there.
That's good.
That's about it. That's my social media.
Good. Thank you for not giving us your Farmers Only account.
No, I don't have that. No, I don't.
You're lying. You're lying. All right, man. Thanks again. You can find me on Twitter at Coach Lawrence FB. Search 4th and 4 Podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon on YouTube. And then as Coach Ament reminded me, we're working on Google. There's a issue with the RS feed, but I'm going to try to get it figured out because Coach Ament said he tries to listen to me on Google and he can't find it. So we'll get that figured out for you, man.
Sorry. I'm waiting on the next big thing on podcast.
All right, dude. Appreciate the rest of your spring break. See you later.